So recently, I took a 3-day trip to Hong Kong. Let me tell you something. Hong Kong, they don't like black people. That was what I learned. My 3 days felt like forever and a day. So let me tell you guys that, have you ever had something happen to you that it's like everything that keeps happening and it's like bad, and it's so bad that like one thing happens, you're like, oh great. The next thing happens, you're like, really? The next thing happens and it's almost comical. Well, that was my trip to Hong Kong. So I get up at 4:30 in the morning because my flight is at 6 a.m. and there was only one flight in that day, and when I got ready to return there was only one flight out that day. So I get to Hong Kong at 9:30 a.m. and I go to get some money out of the ATM because I'm coming from Thailand, so I have Thai baht, not Hong Kong dollars. So I go to put my ATM card in the first machine and the machine's like, nope, sorry, not giving you any money. I'm like, this is odd, I have plenty. Why is it not giving me money? I go to the next machine, slide it in there. Nope, not giving you any money. So I call my bank back in the US and I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? I need my money. I'm in Hong Kong. Give me my money. They're like, we don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know what I'm talking about? They're like, you're not even registering for showing that you've even attempted to take any money out. So I said, okay, I don't know what to do here. So I slide into the third machine, nothing. So I go on Facebook because I'm a social media junkie, and people in their travels have experienced a lot of things that I probably have not yet. So I hop on Facebook and people are like, see if there's actually a bank inside of the airport. Okay, so I just have a carry-on. I'm only going for, 2.5 really days, 3 days roughly. So I just got my little carry-on. I've got nothing to declare through customs. So I walk over to a young lady and I ask her, are there any banks inside of the airport? She looks at me, she looks at my bag and she goes, where are you coming from? I says, Thailand. She says, we want to check your stuff. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I have nothing to declare. I just want to know if there's a bank. She would not answer me. I'm like, great. So I go through, I'm the detainee at customs. They go through my things and I ask the young lady that is now checking my stuff. I'm like, hey, I just want to know if there's a bank inside of the airport. So she points me to where there is a bank inside the airport. I go there and they're like, oh, sorry, we won't take your ATM card. But the guy's like, but there's a Citibank down the way. Okay, great. I go to Citibank. I'm able to get money. Yay! Score one for Citibank. Okay. So the place that I was staying, I booked an Airbnb. The young lady sent me various routes to get to her place. You could take an Uber, it will go this way. You could take a taxi, or you could take the bus system. So I decided I'm going to take the bus. So I go and I'm standing in line to get on the bus, don't know how much the fare is, and there's no bus there yet, but just a long line of people waiting, and I like to give people their space. So there's a space between me and the person in front of me. Well, the lady behind me is like, you move, you move. I'm like, why? There's no bus. Where the hell am I going? So I tell her, I'm like, you go ahead, because I don't really want to be in that guy's personal space, and since there's no bus, I don't really fully understand the point of me being in that space if I don't want to be. So the bus finally comes, and I go to get on the bus, and I ask the guy, what's the fare? He says, you need a ticket. Okay, well, where do I get a ticket? Not on the bus. Duh. You think, dumbass? Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So I'm like, okay, so where do I get a ticket? Not on the bus. And off the bus I go. I'm like, great, this is a wonderful start. I've been stuck in the airport for 3 hours. I've been detained by customs. I've been pushed aside by some chick in the line, and now I've been kicked off the bus with no, So I figure, well, to buy a ticket's gotta be nearby. So I start wandering. I find out where to buy a ticket, and I hop on the next bus. Well, these are double-decker buses, so I take a seat upstairs, and there's a little electronic scrolly deal that goes on, that tells you what the next stop is going to be. So I happen to be at my stop the last person on the bus, right? So I see on the little scrolly thing where it says that I have to go to the Hong Kong Museum, and I'm like, okay. So I come down the stairs and I stand at the line, and the driver's driving, and he's driving, and he's driving, and I'm like, okay. So finally I say to him, Hong Kong Science Museum, you'll pass. I was like, I'm not driving the bus. You are. I came down the stairs and stood here. You saw me standing here, but you're yelling at me. So I didn't say anything. I says, well, sir, this is my first day in Hong Kong. I didn't know where the stop was. That's why I came downstairs and stood at the line. Okay, terminal. So he takes me to the terminal. I'm like, okay. So when he gets done at the terminal, he goes back out to start his route all over again. He pulls up to this bus stop and he does this. And I'm like, am I supposed to get off? I was like, Hong Kong, really? Okay, this is how you treat your tourists. Awesome. So off the bus I go after having gone to the terminal, and I go and I get my things settled in the room that I'm supposed to stay in. Now I'm there for a purpose. I'm there to go visit the Thai consulate so that I can get an extension on my tourist visa here in Thailand. So I decide I'm going to take a taxi to the consulate, and I go out and I'm hailing taxi. They see me, they see a man up ahead, they pass me, they go to the man. I do this several different times, and finally one stops for me. Great. So I tell him where I want to go. He goes about 3 blocks in one direction, a couple of blocks in another. He pulls in behind a long line of other taxis and he says, they take you the rest of the way. I'm like, but I hired you to take me. He's like, no, they take you the rest of the way. So he put me out of his taxi. I had to pay 22 Hong Kong dollars to be put out a few blocks away from where I got started. So I get into another taxi, and the second taxi driver is probably the nicest person that I met the entire trip that I was in Hong Kong, okay? So then I get to the Thai consulate only to find out that they've finished their visa stuff for the day, that I have to come back the next day. So I decide I'm gonna go get something to eat because I woke up at 4:30 this morning. At this point, it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I have yet to eat. My stomach is chewing on my backbone, right? So I figure, hey, you're in China, eat Chinese, right? So I go to the first restaurant and they've got something like, they had a lot of things that I just didn't recognize. So I was like, okay, play it safe, get something you recognize. There was a dish that had rice and it had a fried egg. And I asked the guy, could I have the fried egg fried all the way through? He says, no. I'm like, dude, you just leave the egg on the grill like 2 extra seconds. He's like, no. Okay, thank you very much. I'm not going to be eating chicken feet and the rest of this stuff that's on the menu because I don't know what that is, okay? So I hop up, I go to the next restaurant, and they've got a seafood dish, but it's got squid. And so I say, can I have this without the squid? No. So I had pizza. I ate something I could recognize. So I had pizza in China. So the next morning I get oh wait, sorry. I can't believe I was about to skip the evening. So I get done eating and I go out to hail a taxi to take me back. No taxi will take me back. I went around and around and around and around getting in taxis being told, no, won't take you. And so what started happening was obviously I'd never been to Hong Kong before. I'm very lost. I don't know what to do, but most of the people there speak English, right? So I would hear people speaking English and I would walk up and I would say, excuse me, ma'am, excuse me, sir, can you help me? No, speak English. Really? I just heard you, but I'm not going to argue because what good is that going to do me, right? I'm like, okay, well, thank you. Move on to the next one. Same thing. So I see a taxi cab. He's got his light on. I just figure, hey, you know what? The light on means that you are open for a fare. I walk over to the cab. He's got his window up. He looks up at me through the window like I had bashed the head of his firstborn, and he lets the window down. And the first thing he says to me is, fuck, you need to learn to read English. I was like, what the hell just happened? So I calmly said to him, sir, your light is on. I just want to know if you're for hire. You stupid. You don't know how to read English. I says, and you're an asshole. So I kind of lost it. I will admit it. I lost it. But this guy just let his window down and just like lit into me. And I was like, just couldn't even believe it. So after screaming and hollering and cussing a lot of profanities back at this person, I decide, you know what? You're being foolish in the middle of the street. You're yelling like a freaking idiot in a foreign country. Just let it go. So I go back and I start hunting again for a taxi. No taxi, no taxi, no taxi. Nobody will help me. All of a sudden, nobody speaks English. And finally, guys, I became so frustrated that I literally sat down on the bank stairs and just started crying. And I finally, I had two cell phones. I had my Thai phone, which had a Hong Kong SIM chip in it, and I had my American phone. Both phones were dead. My external charger was dead, so I had no lifeline, and I had no way of knowing how I could get back. So I went into a hotel, like crying at the front desk, and this lady let me charge my phone long enough to make sure that I had the address right for my Airbnb, because we're figuring this is why I'm being turned down. But then I finally find a British man and an Arabic man who actually helped me to figure out how to ride the train to get back to where I was. And then the Arabic guy put me off one stop before, because I got off where he got off, and he hailed a taxi to take me the remaining balance of the way that I needed to go. The taxi driver dumped me too. After, he was like, oh, it's right here. And it was like still another 15-minute ride or 15-minute walk. So that was kind of my experience, if you will, in Hong Kong. So the next day I get up, I go to the embassy, I start taking care of my business, and I decide I'm going to go check out some of, what Hong Kong has to offer now that I know how to work the public transportation system. So I go up to Victoria's Peak, which is absolutely beautiful. And there's a fellow up there that's got these beautiful oil paintings, and I'm looking and I'm debating about which one that I may buy because they are absolutely gorgeous. He's sitting in his seat. He's not paying me any attention. He's just kind of, meandering, if you will. European couple walks up and he pops up out of the seat and he's like, oh, I paint all these oil paintings myself. And he starts telling them of the different locations that aren't of Victoria's Peak. And I was like, okay, wow, that is just like in the US. I'm deemed unimportant, unworthy, and apparently broke. So I'm just going to mosey on and keep my dollars in my pocket. So I then later on decide I'm going to go to the Temple Night Market, which is a very big market. I am in the Temple Market and I'm standing there, and it's like wall to wall people bumper to bumper, so to speak. And I stop and I look at my cell phone and I feel something push me in the back, and I figure it's crowded, somebody's bumped me. And so I just kind of move a little bit. Then I feel pushed again, and I turn around and the vendor is pushing me out of the booth, and she goes. And I was just like, wow. This is unbelievable. So as I shared this experience via social media, everybody started sending me emails, and they started letting me know Chinese people don't like black people. I was like, how did they come to that conclusion? They were 5 of us in their whole damn country. So Hong Kong is a beautiful place, guys. It is a beautiful city that I will never ever go back to, and I will encourage anybody that has chocolate skin that has no need to be there not to go. And so for those of you that are running the Hong Kong Tourist Bureau, you guys know we have money too, and we are traveling the world like everybody else, and we like to spend. If you look at America, we are America's largest spending population. So y'all screwing yourselves, because as soon as all of us black folks start talking about don't go there, I'm sure it won't hurt y'all. But the point is that it's terrible how you all are treating your tourists. And I definitely have no use for ever coming back to Hong Kong. But I will share the few pictures that I took. But I did decide that I would not spend any more money there. And many people have said that, oh, you've got to give China a second chance, or you've got to give Hong Kong a second chance. And to that, I say, hell no. Thank you for watching. See you guys soon.